up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up.
This event that we're actually planning as a community is called Meet in the Middle for Equality, and it comes from a framework of thinking that was the foundation of where I grew up. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi. I always dreamed about living in California where all the gay people lived, as I was told as a young girl. And I wanted to move to California from the very age of 9th grade and told my parents that's where I was going to end up. Didn't think I was going to end up in a place like Fresno. But I believe that God, in my own personal faith journey, made a statement to me that I was not going to leave the soil that I left unknowing that you have to change the soil that you're in. You can't run from the soil, you have to change it. And that's exactly the lesson that I learned when I moved to Fresno, where I thought I was going to get beaches and, you know, everyone singing Kumbaya and hugging trees. I realized really quickly where I ended up in Fresno was a place much like the place that I had just left. And the only difference is people were taught to be a little bit more politically correct and not say how they felt publicly. And they didn't wear their rebel flag on the back of their truck like they would in Jackson, Mississippi, but it didn't mean that they didn't feel that way. So very quickly I learned by growing up in the South that sometimes the way that you make a change is to reach into the communities that struggle to understand you. And that's exactly what Meet in the Middle for Equality is all about. It's an event that is going to be planned for the first Saturday after the Prop 8 verdicts happen. Could be this Saturday coming up, Memorial Day weekend. It could be the Saturday after that, which is May the 30th, or the final weekend that it actually could be is June the 6th, which is actually Gay Pride in Fresno, for those of you who follow the LGBT movement here in Fresno. The idea around this movement really came to me not as my idea. It was a LGBT family that lives in Fresno, a lesbian mother who had watched how my family was brought into the fray of Prop 8 and how I was removed from the PTA president at our son's school. And she said, I really feel like I'm a closeted lesbian and I'm a mother and I don't put myself out there, and I feel like you have. And I want to share an idea that I had that I feel like is a really great idea, and if you like it, run with it. If you don't, then I'll try to think of something else. But I believe that you need to give an answer to the people that feel like they can mess with our families. And it was her idea to do the Meet in the Middle for Equality. And the idea was simply that we would, instead of going to the Capitol or to LA or to San Francisco or to anywhere else in the state, into the gay meccas that tend to, you know, be a little bit more open and affirming, that we would definitely plant our feet in the soil that struggles to understand us. And much like the Freedom Summers that I grew up learning about, reach into those communities where there was an opportunity to change a heart and mind if they just got to know the framework that that person was coming from. And it may take many visits and many conversations to get to that point, but in the end, showing them that we are a community of people that stand together. So there will be people coming from across the state. We have people coming from as far north as Portland, Oregon, as far east as Reno, Nevada, as far south as Phoenix, Arizona. We have 4 buses coming from across the state that are paid for by the Courage Campaign, which is an amazingly progressive California organization that I hope that you'll learn more about. If you don't know about the Courage Campaign, I encourage you to be members. But they have paid for every single voice that is wanting a seat on the bus to be able to get on the Freedom buses to come into Fresno on that first Saturday afterwards. And hopefully, in the end, build the message that we have to do the work in places like Fresno, California. Much of what happened during the last No on 8 campaign is this area was left to fend for itself. And I really felt as an LGBT activist that we were behind enemy lines. And I know that many of you called the offices where I also work part-time at the GSA Network, Gay Straight Alliance Network, asking about No on 8 signs. And I've made statements to the people who were in charge of the No on 8 campaign saying we felt much like we were in a gay ghetto, that this gay Mecca helicopter would run over, drop some signs, and then jet back to this safe haven of San Francisco without the resources and supplies to actually take care of ourselves. And not only were we being attacked by being out, but we were also attacked because we were in a sea of yellow signs without any blue signs to stand up and say, hey, I feel differently. And I don't know how many of you felt that way, but as a progressive person who was just trying to fight for her family to have a voice, I definitely felt abandoned. And this was a way for us as a community to say, We are not willing to be bullied. Our families are not willing to be bullied. And we have straight allies that say enough is enough, that these people are part of our community. These people are a part of a valued movement that is going to change progressive politics and make for a better system where I can hold hands with Lloyd Flores and go into, the tent city and make a difference. Instead of looking at it as his issue and my issue, it's our issue. If anyone is treated unfairly, it's our issue together to take care of that problem together. By my idea again. One of the things that happened in the progressive thinking about this event was the pastor Norman Broadbent from First Congregational Church reached out and said, I don't know if you've thought about this, but there is some symbolicness around the fact that Selma, California is only 14 miles south of Fresno, California. And because of that brilliant, it was the same goosebump feeling that I got whenever Jennifer told me about Meet in the Middle. The moment that she said that, I said, we've got to figure out a way to march from Selma, California into Fresno, California. And that's exactly what we're going to do. There will be people from the labor movement, Christine Chavez, the granddaughter of Cesar Chavez. We'll also have Eric Lee, who's the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, a man that marched with Martin Luther King and Medgar Evers, as well as Reverend Dr. Amos Brown from Third Baptist Church in San Francisco. We'll have union leaders and representatives from the National Union of Healthcare Workers, as well as the California Teachers Association and the California Nurses Association, and gay rights leaders who, in my opinion, will be walking behind in a symbolic sign of respect to the social movements that we have to learn from. We can't do our work in LA and San Francisco and expect change to come around statewide. We saw that in the map that we looked at on November 5th, if you follow the Prop 8 verdict. And we don't expect that we're going to win in the court system when they make that verdict, but what we're saying is if we're ever going to win, and that means by winning not only at the ballot box but also in our community, is we have to start here and move outwards, just like every other progressive thinker across this state. If more people in Berkeley and more people in West Hollywood spent more money investing in communities like this to make progressive change, imagine what this valley would look like. The reality is we're doing everything that we can on the limited resources that we can pull together to make a difference. And only till we join hands, stand together, and make a difference can we actually really empower those words and say, when we speak, we shape the world and shape it from a positive framework. I can't do it on my own. We have to empower each other, just like the Reverend said, and I hope that you'll help me to empower a nation, as we will be looked at, I can guarantee you, on that Saturday after the Prop 8 verdicts in downtown Fresno. It's going to be at 1 o'clock at City Hall. The Sunday after, the famous pastor Jim Franklin from Cornerstone has planned an event at 6 o'clock in response called Still Standing in the Middle, which we are happy that he's doing because that demonstrates the freedom of speech that we should all be so proud of. But I hope that we have more people collected in downtown Fresno the day before, and that will only happen if I have every single one of you make the outreach calls and make an effort to be there standing with us on that Saturday after the Prop 8 verdicts occur. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate the work you do in the Valley, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you tonight.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up.